And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Monday, March 31st. We have a lot to cover on the show today, but before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. It makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, gsmcpodcast.net. That is gsmcpodcast.net. So let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So we're going to start off the show. We are going to talk about the March Madness games from over the weekend, talk about the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight, some very entertaining games over the weekend, and we'll take an early look at the Final Four. We have all 4 1 seeds advancing to the Final Four, and that hasn't happened since, I believe it was 2008. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about Kirk Cousins. So I saw that, it's a possibility maybe if Aaron Rodgers decides to retire or take the year off. I've seen that. And not sign with the Steelers. Kirk Cousins could possibly be an option for the Steelers, and we'll talk about if that's a good fit or not. Then we'll talk about a couple of baseball segments for segments 3 and 4. We'll get into talking about the Dodgers and their sweep of the Tigers and how they're picking up right where they left off. They got their rings this past weekend, so we'll get into that. And we'll also talk about the American League champion, New York Yankees, as they hit a lot of home runs this weekend, and we are going to talk about their performance against the Brewers as well. And then in the final part of the show, I'll continue my season overviews today. We will be covering the Tennessee Titans. And forgive me if you hear my voice. It does sound not like it usually does. Had a couple of birthdays to celebrate over the weekend, and I'll leave it at that. So, yeah, let's get into the first. It was a good weekend. It was a very fun weekend for myself. Definitely needed that. But let's get into the first topic, which is talking about March Madness. Talk about the games from over the weekend, what happened. That is not what I was going to talk about. That's in the next segment. But there we go. So let's talk about the Sweet 16 games from Friday, because we did talk about the games on Thursday. So, some pretty good games. On Friday. Michigan State narrowly passing Ole Miss, 73-70 to advance. That it was a pretty entertaining game. Michigan State was able to get the win. Michigan and Auburn was pretty close for a while, but Auburn just could not miss from three. They didn't shoot great from three, but when they had to, they did. They only shot 8 of 28 from three though, and that was on Friday. But Janai Broome, 22 points. Pettiford had 20 off the bench. But Michigan, their season came to an end. And then you had Tennessee over Kentucky, so they get revenge in the third meeting between the two teams. Tennessee is able to come away with the win, 78-65. And then, Purdue and Houston was pretty close. And Purdue, obviously they made it to the national championship game last year, but, no longer have Zach Edey. But still, they made a deep run. But Houston was able to narrowly defeat Purdue in advance. So now let's get to the Elite Eight games. So Saturday you had Florida, Texas Tech, and you had Alabama, Duke. Now, it wasn't looking good for Florida for a while. Texas Tech had the lead for, I would say, the majority of the game. And then we were getting, towards the end of the game, it was inside 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden Florida just could not miss a shot. And that was with under 5 minutes left in the game. So, it was at one point, let's see if we can go back for a second. Yeah, so it was 73-64 with under 4 minutes left. Well, then it was 75-66 with 3:14 left. Then Florida hits a three-pointer. They hit another three-pointer. They hit 3 straight threes to tie the game. Texas Tech did go ahead, and then Walter Clayton hit another 3 to make it 78-77. It was like a 16-2 run, and they ended up winning 84-79. Clayton Jr. had 30 points. Thomas Hall had 20 off the bench. So they advance. They come out of their division as the 1 seed with the win. They advance to the Final Four. And then Duke, Alabama. Now, I thought this game was going to be a little bit better, but, I mean, this just shows you how good Duke is this year. They got the best player, and they have a very good team. Mark Sears only had 6 points in the game. Did not have a great shooting day. He only went 2 for 12, 1 for 5 from 3. Alabama as a team went 8 for 32 from 3, and they shot 23 of 65. That's 35% from the field. Not good. Duke shot 53%. They took less shots, but they took control of the game really in the second half. It was close for a little bit, but they took control of the game. They ended up winning by 20, and they advance to the Final Four. And then we get to Sunday's games. Now, didn't really get to watch them because I was out, but I was keeping up with the games. Houston, I mean, they jumped out to a huge lead early against Tennessee. They outscored them 34-15 in the first half. Tennessee did play better in the second half. I mean, they both ended up tying in the second half. They both had 35 points. L.J. Cryer definitely had a better game than the other night when he only had 5 points against Purdue. He finished with 17 points, and they were able to get the win. They did shoot 9 of 25 from 3, 28 of 66 overall. Tennessee, they shot the ball 28%, or about 29% from the field. Houston was 42% from the field, and they got the win. So they move on, and then finally Michigan State, Auburn. This was the one that was a big deal for my bracket because I had Michigan State in the national championship game. Definitely took a risk with that because, I wasn't trying to pick all 1 seeds. But Auburn was just a better team. They were just a better team here. I mean, Michigan State in the second half, they were trailing by 10 basically like the entire half. And they had opportunities, like even towards the end. There were a couple of turnovers. They could have cashed in, but they didn't. They only ended up losing by 6. But, again, Auburn is just a better team. Janai Broom, who I think left briefly in the game, he did come back. He finished with 25 points, 14 rebounds, 10 of 13 from the field. That was 2 for 2 from 3. Pettifer actually did not have a big game. He only had 10 points. So, again, Michigan State kept it within reach. It's just they couldn't go on a run to get within reach, to tie the game and maybe take the lead, but it just never got to that point. Both teams really didn't shoot the ball well. They both shot around the same for from 3-point range. From what I was hearing, Michigan State is not a great 3-point team. And, I'm saying that just because, again, I'm not an avid college basketball watcher. But when you hear that and, you see, Florida and what they've done and, and that's who Auburn is going to play. So if Michigan State won, that's who they would have played. And, Florida's a pretty good 3-point shooting team. Look at what they did the other night. Again, like we talked about. But that's why, from watching this tournament and, I had Auburn getting knocked out early on. I said, yeah, this is going to be tough for Michigan State. I was hoping that, Tom Izzo being the coach that he was, this team was going to be ready and maybe pull off the upset, but they came up a little bit short. Auburn was just a better team, and you got to tip their cap to them. Michigan State did out-rebound Auburn, but it just It didn't matter. Auburn gets the win. And they struggled towards the end of the regular season, but they have really played well in this tournament. So, yeah, they advanced, and now we got the Final Four. So, the Final Four begins, well, that doesn't begin, but it's on Saturday. The first game is Florida-Auburn. Auburn opens up as a 2.5-point underdog, and then the later game is Duke, and they are a 4.5-point favorite against Houston. So that's on Saturday, and then the national championship game is Monday. So, yeah. No, the two very good games. All the one seeds advanced. Like I said, that was the first time. This is the first time it's happened since 2008. I think the four teams, I think it was UCLA, North Carolina, and I forget the two other teams. But, I know some people are going to have their complaints because, there was no Cinderella team this year in the Final Four. But, look, it sets us up for some really entertaining games, like I said. And I'm looking forward to these two games. I'm hoping Duke advances for my bracket. Most people that I talk to, it's Duke that's going to come out of this thing as national champions. But we'll see. Anything can happen. These are the four best teams. So, Saturday's going to be a fun night when it comes to college basketball. But we're nearing the end there. But let me know what you guys think, though, about the games. What were your takeaways from them? Let me know in the comments. So we are going to take our first break of the show now. And then when we come back, we will talk about Kirk Cousins. Is he a good fit for the Steelers if they miss out on Aaron Rodgers, if Rodgers decides to retire? We'll get into that when we come back from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit. A stupid myth, you choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast, and for the second part of the show, we are now going to talk about Kirk Cousins and if he is a good fit for the Steelers if they decide to pivot if Aaron Rodgers does not sign with them. So we've been hearing a lot of different reports, obviously, and it's possible that Aaron Rodgers just decides, hey, I don't want to play. I could take the year off. I could just retire. I could wait for another injury and go to a better situation. If that's possible, there's a lot of different things that can happen. Now, I did see that Kirk Cousins could be a possibility if Rodgers does not choose the Steelers. Now, would that be a good fit? I think so. I wouldn't say it's, a perfect fit. But I do think with how Arthur Smith likes to run his offense, I think maybe, that could potentially work. Now, you could also say, but here's the thing. They bring him in, that's a pocket passer. And, Steeler fans want a guy that's mobile. And Kirk Cousins is not mobile. So that's why I would say it's not a perfect fit. Because, from that perspective. But I do think, though, it could work. It's just, how is Kirk Cousins going to play another year removed from the Achilles injury? Because Kirk Cousins did get off to a decent start, and then that Saints game happened, and then everything just fell apart. And it's possible that injury that he suffered to his throwing arm, led to, his decline of play until he was benched for Michael Penix. We'll see. I think that really affected him mentally because, you start hearing he's talking about retirement. But he is going to play somewhere. And I do think wherever he ends up, because I do think he's not going to be on the Falcons the whole year next year. He's going to end up somewhere else. And I'm going to stand by that. Because I just don't see him being the backup to Michael Penix the entire year. We talked about this already, but I just don't see that happening. He's going to go somewhere else. There are teams that need quarterbacks. Steelers are one of them. The Browns are there unless they decide to, take Shedeur Sanders, or if Cam Ward ends up going to 2 and they take Shedeur Sanders, the Titans, which I don't think is going to happen, but we'll see. You never know. There are teams out there that need QBs. And also, like I just said with Rodgers, if someone gets injured, they could opt to trade for Kirk Cousins or something. Unless the Falcons just flat out release Kirk Cousins. And that would benefit other teams because then they don't have to give up anything to get him. But with the Steelers, I think if the offensive line is able to hold up, I think Kirk could do well. I think Kirk could put up good numbers there. I think, look, last year was just a real turnoff because of just how his year finished. I mean, he played really poor in those games in the second half that led to his benching. So, people are not going to be optimistic with him. And then also, having him as a second quarterback on my fantasy team, it was frustrating. But I think he's still got gas left in the tank. And I think if he is healthy, he can bounce back. And the Steelers might not be a bad spot for him just because, they have good weapons there. And look, the Steelers are always in contention. And it would be a massive upgrade for them at quarterback. Like with what they have currently. I wouldn't say it'd be a massive upgrade compared to what they had last year with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, but what they have currently with Mason Rudolph, like, I think, Kirk Cousins is an upgrade there. You don't want to go into the year with Mason Rudolph as your starter. I mean, some Steelers fans are open to that. I mean, I can't speak for all of them, but some are definitely open to the idea. I know that. But we still have to see, what happens with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I don't know when he's going to make a decision. If it comes after the draft, so be it. We patiently wait. But, the Steelers, they could be a team that takes a quarterback with their first pick. Maybe they take one in the later rounds. They did meet with Jalen Milroe. Jackson Dart's a guy that could be projected to go to them with their first pick in the first round. I mean, Jalen Milroe is not going to be a first-round pick, but they could maybe take him later on. Because they need that future quarterback. Now, it might not be in this draft. That's the problem, but they need to. Quarterback is probably a position they should address in the draft, just so you have a backup plan. Because they have Mason Rudolph and I don't know if they still have Kyle Allen, but they have Mason Rudolph. They really messed things up with how they handled, the quarterbacks in the offseason. Because what they did last year was like a ripple effect, right? Because you bench Fields, and then, you pursue Fields over Russ, and then Fields ends up going to the Jets. Well, because they lowballed him. Jets gave him more money. And then Russ ended up signing with the Giants because they're pursuing Aaron Rodgers. And now Rodgers might not play, and then you're left with nothing unless Kirk Cousins comes into the picture. But look, the Steelers and the Giants are dealing with similar things. They just have failed to find that next quarterback since their guys retired. And at some point, you figure they will figure it out and they'll get this thing back on the right track. But you're just wondering, when is that going to happen? As my dog starts barking in frustration over that. Only time will tell. But this would just be the latest veteran that the Steelers bring in, if that's the case. Because even when they drafted Kenny Pickett, I mean, they signed Mitchell Trubisky, and Trubisky was not great. I mean, Rudolph you bring back because he knows the system. And look, I mean, those final 3 games in 2023, he helped propel the Steelers to the postseason. So, I mean, he's a good backup to have. But, as a starter, yeah, that doesn't get me too excited. But, I mean, look, if you have a young guy, that's one thing. He's the bridge guy. I guess you could use him as a bridge guy. That makes sense. So we'll see. But I would be okay with Kirk going to the Steelers. I don't think that would be bad for him. I think that could be a good spot. But I would be curious to see how Steelers fans will react to that if that ended up happening. Would they be happy about it, or no different, or indifferent, I should say? We'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. But it all depends on Aaron Rodgers, because the Steelers, it's just the Steelers right now. There's no other teams that we're aware of at the moment that are in on Rodgers. I mean, all the talk was Rodgers wanted to go to the Vikings, and then they basically said, we're good, we got J.J. McCarthy. He's going to be ready to go for the start of the season. He's going to be our guy moving forward. So that took them out. And then the Giants went and signed Russ because they probably figured we're not going to get Aaron Rodgers. And then that just leaves the Steelers. Steelers can end up with nobody. Maybe the Falcons really are dead set on keeping Kirk Cousins. Who knows? But I do believe that he is going to end up elsewhere. I really do believe that. Because I don't think he wants to be. He doesn't. I don't think. I know he doesn't want to be a backup. He wants to start. Now, if he goes to another team and he doesn't play well, that could spell maybe the end of him. But I think for right now, I'm giving him that chance to, he goes somewhere else, and I think he'll play well. Because we saw that. Look, he didn't throw 500 yards in a game last year by accident. I know it was against the Bucs. The Bucs defense is not great, but still. He threw for 500 yards. It's not easy to do in a game. And he did it. So he still got it. It's just he struggled. Got hurt against the Saints. Coming off a major injury. And he had a lot of bad games. Especially against those AFC West teams. Against the Chargers, against the Broncos. It was not good. It was not good. So, let's see where he could potentially end up. Now, you always hear the Browns because of Kevin Stefanski, the connection there. But Steelers could come into the picture if things don't go their way with Rodgers. But let me know what you guys think, though. Is Kirk Cousins a good fit for the Steelers? How would you feel about that? Let me know in the comments. So before we go to break, just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining. Between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers, we appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day. So any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So when we come back from our next break, we're going to talk some baseball. We're going to talk about the Dodgers and their series against the Tigers over the weekend and why it's going to be tough to beat them. It really is. And we will get into that when we come back from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are now going to talk about the Dodgers' performance over the weekend as they sweep the Detroit Tigers, and they are now 5-0 on the year because, you know, they played the games in Tokyo a couple weeks ago. Well, first I actually wanted to bring this up. So, some NFL stuff. There is support within the committee for the NFL that, for the banning of the tush push. So, the Packers have proposed that, so I guess some teams are, in support of that. And, look, I just think it's silly. Okay, look, I mean, is the tush push silly? Yes, but it should not be banned. It should not be banned. You got to be able to stop it. And teams just can't do it. So, that's why they're doing this, and they just think it's not safe. But no major star player has gotten injured from this play. So, I mean, that's part of it, but also just how, you're just pushing, your quarterback into the end zone. Well, why weren't the Bills able to do it in the championship game? Why weren't they able to do it? Whatever. And that's me supporting the Eagles. But still, it's ridiculous. It should not be banned. But let's get into the Dodgers now. Let's talk some baseball. So it was a great weekend for the Dodgers. They got their World Series rings, and they got a sweep. But I wanted to bring this up. So the Dodgers and the Mets, both, and I mean the Astros as well, the Tigers, they had off days on Sunday. And it's just very odd because everybody usually plays on Sunday. Off days are usually on Monday. Now, we'll talk about the Yankees and their off days in a little bit. But I don't understand where did these Sunday off days come from? I don't know. That's just something I wanted to bring up. But anyways, yeah, so it was a good weekend for the Dodgers. They proved to us all that they're pretty good. They're pretty good. They're a pretty good team. They beat the AL Cy Young winner, Tariq Skubal, on Thursday. Blake Snell got his first win as a Dodger. They won 5-4 on Thursday. And then I got to watch, Friday night's game. First of all, I do want to talk about the Tigers for a second. The Tigers, they made the playoffs last year. And, they made a little bit of a run. They beat the Astros in the wild card round, and then they went up against the Guardians, and they lost that series. I think it was in 5 games, but I did give them credit, for this series because they played the Dodgers pretty tough. I know this is the first series of the year, but this is the heavyweight defending champion Dodgers against the Tigers, who got this young team, right? Now they do have AJ Hinch, who is one of the better managers in Major League Baseball, but still, they played them tough, and they had the lead. They had the lead in extra innings. Well, first of all, they tied the game in the top of the 9th. So Tanner Scott, who the Dodgers signed, he blew the save. So they tied the game, and then they put up 2 runs in the top of the 10th, and that was from Dylan Dingler, who had a 2-run triple. Conforto was diving for the ball. He missed it, and 2 runs scored on that. And I think Dingler also had a home run in the game. Yeah, he also hit a home run in the game as well. Gleyber Torres had a home run. He was hurt his side, rounding the bases, I guess. Well, just on the home run. But Freddie Freeman had a home run in the game. Mookie Betts had 2 home runs, and one of them was obviously the walk-off. So, yeah, Tigers were up 5-3, and then Dodgers tied the game, and then they put up, 3 more runs with the Mookie Betts 3-run homer, and that made it 8-5, and that was the game. That was the game. So, and then Saturday, sorry, they won 7-3, and I think, did Sasaki pitch in the game? Yeah, Sasaki pitched in the game. He only pitched an inning in 2/3. 2 earned runs, 3 hits, 4 walks, 2 strikeouts. Dodgers bullpen did its job. They gave up a run, but, they were pretty much dominant the whole way. They got contributions from Freddie Freeman. He had another home run. Conforto had an RBI double. Teoscar Hernandez, Will Smith homered. Tommy Edman homered. Freddie Freeman had an RBI double. They're just a machine. And they're going to be tough to beat. Now, I know some people online are like, oh, man, they're going to go 162-0. No, that's not happening. That will not happen. But you definitely could think to yourself, they could go for that win record. They definitely could. Because they have such a deep team. They have so much depth, with their pitching. Their bullpen is lights out. The starters, they really, they have such a deep bullpen that, their starters really don't have to give them length. Because they got guys that can come in and give you multiple innings. Now, you do worry about that because I talk about this with the Yankees too. You do want your starters to give you length because at some point your bullpen is going to get taxed. But, I don't know. I worry more so about that for the Yankees than I do the Dodgers because the Dodgers could just put up a bunch of runs. But Yankees did put up a bunch of runs this weekend too. But again, it's only the first series. If there's one thing that I've learned, and we will talk about Juan Soto tomorrow on the show because, Yankee Met fans were going back and forth and, Soto made his debut as a Met and, did not have a bad series against the Astros by any means, but I do want to talk about that because it's just it's a big deal, I think. So, yeah, we'll get into that tomorrow. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's don't overreact to the first series of the year. Do not. Because, it was a great weekend for my team, but, I'm not expecting them to do that every single day. And I do think the Yankees are in for a reality check tomorrow, but we'll get into that. We'll get into that. But yeah, the Dodgers just, they're just unreal. They really are. And Mookie Betts, I do want to bring up Mookie Betts. So obviously he was dealing with that illness, and there was a lot of concern there. But then he was getting positive updates, and and then he has that game on Saturday, which I will say, as much as I was kind of shaking my head, saying, "Man, I can't believe this team is just this good," but and they pulled off the comeback, which I figured was going to happen because, saw them play in the World Series against the team I root for, and, they're never out of a game. They're not. So, but just seeing Mookie Betts being able to do that and what he was going through the last, couple of weeks, longer than that, that was good to see, and hopefully he's past that. It seems like he's past it, and, he can go out there and have a good year. Ohtani homered in the opener. Still waiting to see what happens with him when he gets back on the mound. But, we saw Blake Snell get his first win with the Dodgers. And then, Sasaki really didn't give the Dodgers a lot of length. But, at some point he's going to figure it out and he'll be effective. But a very good series for them. And I think now, starting this week, they go up against, let's see, what do the Dodgers go up against? Oh, wow, they go up against the Braves, and the Braves actually just got swept by the Padres in 4 games. So, not a good start for them. You got the Dodgers 5-0, Braves 0-4 to start the year. In the pitching matchup tonight, you got Tyler Glasnow making his first start of the year for the Dodgers, and then you got Grant Holmes for the Braves. So, we'll see what happens there. And then for the Tigers, they'll be starting a series with the Mariners this week. At least, starting this week. But let me know what you guys think, though, about the Dodgers. Do you think this team could break the single-season win record? I definitely think it is possible. It's definitely possible. That I feel like is not that much of an overreaction because it's just how good this team is. I'm serious. They could definitely do it. Now, there are some people that are going to bet the under in wins for the Tigers. It's my dog chasing her tail outside my door right now, so I apologize for that. I guess she's she's excited about the Dodgers and how well they're doing. But it's I really think they can do it. Injuries can come along, we get that, but if this team can stay fully healthy, they could definitely do it. They could definitely do it. But it's just, it's like it's a wide gap between the Dodgers and like the next best team, honestly. But we got a long way to go. We got a long season. You could say it's an overreaction, but got a long season, and let's see how it plays out. But we are going to take our next break now, and then when we come back, we are going to talk about the Yankees and their offensive explosion over the weekend. After their close win against the against the Brewers in the opener. We will get into talking about how they did, how Aaron Judge did as he tries to go for his second straight MVP and his third in his last 4 years. We will get into that, and how the lineup looked over the weekend against the Brewers. It was definitely rough for the Brewers, but the Yankees, they swept they swept a good team, a team that won the Central last year, so they're off to a good start. They're off today. But, we'll get into all that when we come back from our next break. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC. To access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast, and for the fourth part of the show, we are going to talk about the Yankees-Brewers series and just the offensive showing that the Yankees put on in the second two games. In the last two games of the series. So they won a close game on Thursday, 4-2. It got a little dicey in the ninth inning with Devin Williams making his Yankee debut, but they were able to pick up the win. So now we get to Saturday. Nestor Cortez, he makes his return to the Bronx to take on his former team. And he had a lot of nice things to say about the team, going in on the pregame. And then the game started. Max Fried was making his debut as a Yankee, and, it was a mixed bag. But he wasn't great. But the Yankees' offense was great in this game. The Yankees, they put up 20 runs in this game. And in that first inning, I saw something that in all my years of watching baseball, and again, if you're an older fan watching this, obviously you have me beat there. But as a now 25-year-old baseball fan, I have never seen back-to-back-to-back home runs on 3 pitches. Paul Goldschmidt, who led off for the Yankees. Now, again, I really am not a fan of the Yankee leadoff hitters that they've had so far, but hey, guess what? I'm a fan now because it's working. It is working. Because Austin Wells, in his first at-bat on Thursday, he homered. In Paul Goldschmidt's first at-bat, leading off, he homers. And the Yankees were off and running. Then Bellinger comes up. He homers on the first pitch, and then Aaron Judge comes up, and then he homers on the first pitch. And Aaron Judge is already off to a much better start than last year, and he hit 58 home runs last year. He's got 4 home runs in 3 games. I think he's the first Yankee to ever do that to start the year. But you had back-to-back-to-back home runs on 3 pitches, and then all of a sudden Austin Wells homers later in the inning. So, Nestor Cortez, the last couple of appearances in meaningful games has not looked good. Yankees got rid of him at the right time. But they were not done yet. They put up, the Brewers put up a 3 spot in the top of the second due to sloppy defense. And then in the bottom of the second, they put up a 3 spot, the Yankees. And that was a 3-run homer by Anthony Volpe, so that was big. And then they put up a 6 spot in the bottom of the third. Bellinger had a 2-run single. Or no, it was just a regular RBI single. And then Aaron Judge hit a grand slam to make it 12-3. And then Jazz Chisholm homered to make it 13-3. Brewers scored a run in the top of the fourth. Then Bellinger had a sac fly. Aaron Judge again homered. His 3rd homer of the game. And I think that was his 3rd 3-homer game of his career. So at that point, that made it 16-4. Brewers tacked on a couple of runs in the top of the 5th to make it 16-6. And then the Yankees scored a couple in the bottom of the 6th. Bellinger single. Judge just missed his 4th home run to make it 18-6, an RBI double. Then Oswald Peraza, he homered. 9th homer of the game, make it 20-6. Then Jake Bauers had an RBI double. Bryce Terang, 2-run homer in the top of the 9th, and that was the final score, 20-9. Now, Aaron Judge did get another opportunity to hit his 4th homer of the game. Jake Bauers came in to pitch and threw him a breaking pitch, and Judge just missed that one. So, honestly, Judge could have had 5 homers in the game, but he came just short of that. But, yeah, an unreal game. That's never happened before in Yankees history, 9 home runs. I think that tied, I think it was like the Reds for the most homers in a single game. But, yeah, I've never seen that many home runs in a game. So, yeah, that was Saturday. Then yesterday, Marcus Stroman pitched in his first game of the season and, pitched 4 2/3, 3 hits, or 5 hits, 3 earned runs. Not bad, not great. Bullpen locked it down. But, yeah, the Yankees, again, off and running. Judge, a 2-run homer in the bottom of the first. Ben Rice homered. Jazz Chisholm had a couple of homers in this game. And they ended up winning 12-3. Now, there were some complaints with the Yankees because of the bats they were using, the torpedo bats. and they're a different design bat. But, illegal bats was trending all over social media, and people were saying, oh, the Yankees are cheating. And, one of the Brewers players, brought it up and said, well, it's the Yankees, so the league is going to let it pass. Now, here's the thing. The bats are legal. They are legal as of right now. Now, like the tush push, it could be eventually outlawed, and then, they can't use them anymore. Aaron Judge, who had 4 home runs over the weekend, he did not use that bat. He used his own bat. So, can't really blame him. But here's the thing. For the Brewers, maybe get some guys out first. How about you get guys out? Your pitching was not great over the weekend. That's why you saw what happened. That's why. It's not because the Yankees were using illegal bats. It's because your pitching is not good. Now, that's because they are dealing with a lot of injuries to their pitching staff. Brandon Woodruff still has to come back. They're missing some guys. So that's kind of why that happened. But don't make excuses. You lost because you didn't perform. And the other team just went off offensively. But you got to be excited if you're a Yankee fan just by that series, because Aaron Judge has gotten off to a good start. Their new acquisitions have gotten off to a good start. The young guys have gotten off to a good start. Lineup's been doing well. The bullpen has looked good. The starting pitching, Carlos Rodon was good on Thursday, but Max Fried, was not great. Only gave up 2 earned runs because the Yankees committed 5 errors on Saturday. But, it was not great. Stroman, got to the 5th inning. Both guys could not get through the 5th inning, and that is what I worry about, because that is eventually going to catch up to them at some point. But Aaron Judge, man, he is the best player in baseball. He's the best player in baseball. You could argue it's Ohtani. I get it. Ohtani's a very good player, but Judge can do more than Ohtani. Now, Ohtani's going to pitch, and then you could say, well, Judge can't pitch. Okay, I get it. But Judge is an elite right fielder. He's got a great arm. He's a good base runner. And then, of course, he's one of the greatest hitters of this generation. He really is. It's unfortunate that he came up so late, because had he come up earlier, and also if injuries weren't a thing, the COVID season, where would his numbers currently be right now? Because, he's not going to catch up to, Barry Bonds for, the most home runs all time. That's not happening. Right now he's at 300. I think he's 32. I think he's at, 315, 316. He could definitely get to 500, which you'll take that. But, if he would have came up earlier, you wonder how many home runs would he have at this moment. But, hey, you never know. He could hit 50 home runs, for the rest of his career every single year. And then he's there. But possibly. But I'd have to do math. I'm assuming that. But it really is impressive what he does as a player. Now, I know everybody's going to talk about the postseason. I get that, but what you are watching with him is truly special, and probably won't see this again. So I'm going to sit back and enjoy this, because at some point it's going to be over. When I was younger, I just never thought Derek Jeter and those guys were ever going to retire. Him and Mariano Rivera. I just never thought they were going to retire. But then, you realize, even those guys retire at some point. And, you're seeing it across all sports, all these major players retiring, Tom Brady retiring. And at some point, LeBron James is going to retire. It's just, it happens. So I'm going to sit back and enjoy it. Look, I'm not going to go too crazy, because it is just one series, and I did say, in the last segment that, I think the Yankees are going to get a little bit of a reality check when we get to Tuesday, tomorrow, because they will be going up against Corbin Burnes, who is a very good pitcher, and the Yankees have Will Warren pitching tomorrow against a good Diamondbacks team. And, they didn't have a great series. Actually, no. What's their record after the first series? Because they went up against the Cubs. They they went 2-2 in that series, but still, they got good pitching, and this is gonna be different from the Brewers. So we'll see how it goes. Can the Yankees keep this up? But Aaron Judge already off to a much better start than last year, so he's looking to get to 70 this year, and it's just amazing. You see what he's doing, and he gets off to the start, and you're just like, he could definitely get to 60 again, and let's hope so. I'd love to see another one of those seasons and enjoy it. But a good weekend for the two World Series teams. Obviously, the Dodgers won, I know, but still, it was a good weekend for both teams. They're both undefeated. There's actually a few undefeated teams after the first series of the year. So you got the Dodgers. Well, they've already played 2 series, but they're undefeated right now. The Yankees are undefeated. The Padres are undefeated. They're 4-0. They got off to a good start. And I thought there was one more. I think wasn't it the Cardinals? Yeah, Cardinals. They swept the Twins. So you got 4 undefeated teams right now. Let's see if they can keep it up. All right, so now we are going to take our final break of the show now. I do apologize for some of the background noise. We had my brother, I don't know what he was doing in his room, but you also had my dog outside, my door's chasing her tail. So a lot of background noise. I don't know if my brother was like drilling in a shelf or something, but that's what happens in my household. When we come back from our final break, we will talk about the Tennessee Titans. I'll talk about their season, what they've done in the offseason, and what they could potentially do in the draft, which I think we kind of figure what they're going to do, but we'll see. So for one final time today, make sure to stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast, and for the final part of the show, we are now going to talk about the Tennessee Titans and the season that they had and what they could potentially do in the NFL Draft, what they've done in the offseason so far. It was a rough one for the Tennessee Titans. They ended up finishing 3-14 on the season, and they finished in last in the AFC South, and they got the number 1 overall pick. So they could take potentially their franchise quarterback. Now that they were kind of hoping that Will Levis was going to maybe take that next step. They surrounded him with more offensive talent. You bring in an offensive-minded head coach, Brian Callahan, from the Bengals. So they were hoping it was going to be better for Will Levis. And, it just did not materialize that way. He finished with 2,000 yards passing, 13 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Mason Rudolph played a little bit. He did play in that game against the Dolphins when Will Levis got hurt. And Mason Rudolph finished with 1,500 yards passing, 9 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. But yeah, the Titans went out. They got Tony Pollard, replaced Derrick Henry with him. They got Calvin Ridley, so they got him from Jacksonville. They also signed Tyler Boyd. So they did make and they also drafted J.C. Latham. So they did make an attempt to try to, put more pieces around Will Levis. But yeah, it didn't really work out. And Will Levis was basically a meme every single week. He had that pick six he threw against the Bears, and he had his hands over his head. Against the Jets, there was that shuffle pass that led to a fumble that the Jets recovered. It was a rough year for Will Levis, but yeah, I mean, look, they were up 17-0 against the Bears in the opener, and they let the Bears come back. I mean, had the Titans had Will Levis not thrown that pick six, maybe they win that game, because the Titans defense was playing really well in that game against Caleb Williams. And then against the Jets, turnovers were costly. They had a chance to win that game. They ended up losing to former Titan Malik Willis when the Packers came to town. Will Levis threw another pick six. Then he ended up getting hurt against the Dolphins, and they kind of just ran the ball the whole game. And they ended up winning that. They put up 30 points. So they were 1-3 at that point. Then they lost a close game to the Colts. They got blown out by the Bills, blown out by the Lions. They beat the Patriots in overtime. Will Levis against the Chargers played a little bit better, had a couple of touchdown passes, but they ended up losing that game. They lost to the Vikings. However, they did upset the Texans, 32-27. C.J. Stroud, I believe, threw a pick six in that game, but that was an upset win for them. And then they proceeded to lose their next 6 games. Will Levis got benched at one point, but he did play in the final game of the season. But the Titans ended up losing that. So yeah, they went 3-14 on the year. Now I kind of flip-flopped the Jaguars and the Titans, so I because I was trying to go based off of the standings, so I got that mixed up. So that's why we're doing the Titans today. But yeah, it was not great for them. And then offensively, I mean, Tony Pollard had over 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns. Tajay Spears had 4 rushing touchdowns. Calvin Ridley finished with over 1,000 yards. He had 4 touchdowns. Westbrook-Ikhine had 9 touchdowns on the season, but he ended up signing elsewhere. So they lost him. They still have Tyler Boyd, but I could definitely see, maybe they move off of him. DeAndre Hopkins, they traded to the Chiefs, so he was no longer there. He had 1 touchdown before that. But, and then looking at, the rankings. So you look at their offense. They were 26th in total yards per game, 27th in passing yards per game. Rushing yards per game, they were 19th. So they were middle of the pack there. But, not a great offensive team. And then defensively, their defense ranked 2nd in total yards allowed per game. But they were 29th in sacks. And also being 30th in points allowed per game. So, yeah, not great numbers there. Actually, they ranked 2nd in against the pass. They gave up an average of 177 passing yards per game. They were 26th against the run. 29th in sacks, 19th in interceptions. They had a negative turnover ratio. It was -17, but that's also because Will Levis turned the ball over a lot, so that didn't really help out their point differential there. So yeah, not a great team. This team needs a lot of work. Now they went out and they signed Brandon Allen, to be a backup quarterback. They signed Xavier Woods over from the Panthers. They signed Kevin Zeitler. Drummond Jones, defensive end. They brought in Van Jefferson, who played with the Steelers. They gave Dan Moore a lot of money, another Steeler, a 4-year, $82 million deal. Some people were kind of scratching their heads over that. Had a 92.5% pass block win rate, so that's good. But yeah, it was a lot of money. $82 million, $50 million guaranteed. But we'll see if that pans out. They signed Sebastian Joseph Day. They brought in Johnny Hecker. Cody Barton, they also signed from the Broncos. So they definitely were busy in free agency. And then in the draft, they got the first overall pick. And they're probably going to take Cam Ward. We heard them talk about taking a generational talent, and many people thought, well, does that mean they're going to take Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter? Well, maybe they feel like Cam Ward can be a generational talent. But, they like I said, they got a lot of work to do with this team. And, yeah, I mean, look, is the AFC South a gauntlet? No. But, I mean, you look at the other teams. I mean, the Texans still run the division. We'll see if the Jaguars can bounce back, even though they got a lot of work to do themselves. And then, you got the Colts, who, kind of are just in the middle. Because, if Anthony Richardson maybe could take that next step, they could be a good team. Made some good signings in the offseason. And they got a good offense. Got good receivers, good young receivers. They got Jonathan Taylor. But it really comes down to the quarterback. Now, we say Anthony Richardson, but we could also see Daniel Jones step in and be the starter. Who knows? But, I mean, the Titans, I had them at what? I had them at, what did I have them at? 6 wins, I think. They got 3. So, yeah, that's pretty much it when talking about the Titans, though. They were not very good, and they got a lot of work to do. The draft, we'll see what they do. Draft is coming up. Tomorrow is April 1st. So, we're going to get to that point. But, let me know what you guys think, though, about that. And, I mean, after this division, we're up to the AFC West, and then that's it for the season overviews. So we really made a dent in this, and we're almost done already. So, but it was an exciting weekend of sports. We didn't really get into a lot of NBA stuff, but we'll talk about some of that tomorrow. I did advance in my fantasy basketball playoffs. I beat the best team by far in the league. And I was without Damian Lillard and Jalen Brunson, and I still was able to win. So I got by. I got by the first round. I am now in the championship game, and I am going for that repeat. And I did bring up Brunson. Nick's got some positive updates on Jalen Brunson. He's eligible to resume basketball activities, so it's only a matter of time before he gets cleared. Hopefully, he gets cleared this week, and he can come back and help me win a championship, another one. That would be great. Fantasy baseball went well this week, especially, because I had Aaron Judge, Austin Wells, and Cody Bellinger on my team. And yes, look, as a Yankee fan, you can say whatever you want, but they're all good. In my other league, actually, it's another week. So I am winning, though, but, anything can happen. Maybe I lose that. We'll see. And then for March Madness, the Michigan State losing really hurt my chances for winning my bracket group. But if Duke wins, I still got a shot. So, it was an exciting weekend. Good games. Baseball's back. And then before you know it, we got some of the other playoffs starting. The NBA season is almost over. And then we get to the playoffs. Hockey playoffs are going to start soon. So, and then you got the draft, later in April. A lot to look forward to. It's a great time to be a sports fan. But I appreciate you guys tuning in for today. Again, hope my voice will be back to its normal self this week. It's just, again, it was a really fun weekend. So I gotta learn to conserve the voice a little bit. And then I apologize for the background noise, but It's quiet now. So, yeah, no, appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure to check out all the other shows as well on the network. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the videos on both YouTube channels. Make sure to check us out wherever you get your podcast, to listen to us, wherever you are. If you're on the go, you can do that as well. And, yeah, until next time, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.